But that's okay because I'm hanging out here with the Fed Haters Club. JoinGML.com. JoinGML.com if you want to come hang out with me and the Fed Haters Club. Today, something we do, we try to do once a month. Sometimes we skip a month like we did this time. Today is Dumb Bleep of the Month. Many years ago, we started this thing called Dumb Bleep of the Week. Why is it called that? I don't know. I actually don't know. It rhymes. And so that's really the only reason that we call it that. So at the end of the week, we have the live group vote on what the dumbest thing was that happened that week. And then we put those into the dumbest thing of the month. And then at the end of the year, we'll be voting for what the dumbest thing that happened in Year of Our Lord 2025, in fact, was. So this is just one part of that. These are things that Charlie and I have already talked about many times, at least one time so far on the show. That's how it made it to this episode. So I'm going to give a little synopsis. It probably won't be as fun as the week that it happened, but it's still going to be good to recap some of these dumb things that happen. Before we actually get to that, let me see if I remember the button I hit when I'm here by myself. I think that's the button. Okay. I wanted to talk about another thing. This is outside of Dumb Bleep of the Month. It could be in Dumb Bleep of the Week, but this is something going on right now. And so I wanted to talk about it. And I wanted to get the live group. I wanted to get their take on what Trump is pushing for right now. And many of the big influencers are pushing for right now. And that is killing the filibuster, using the nuclear option to end this government shutdown. Now, at first, I had one specific reaction to it, which was, wow, this has only happened a couple times in the past, and this time they want to do it to end the shutdown so they can do a continuing resolution to continue Biden-era spending levels. And how ridiculous is that? Not to make the government smaller, take powers away from it, to implement any of those stated MAGA policy goals, stuff like that, just to continue the same spending path we've been on. That has since changed a little bit. Trump has talked about ending it and getting some stuff done before it's too late. And I'm generally not in favor of this, but I would like to hear from the Fed Haters Club. If you guys have any ideas, you can maybe tell me where I'm wrong on this. I'll give you, I believe, three truths that Trump has posted out. On the 1st of November, he said, remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court, pick up 2 states, and add at least 8 electoral votes. Their 2 objectors are gone. Don't be weak and stupid. Fight, fight, fight. Win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never again have the chance to destroy America. Republicans, you will rue the day that you didn't terminate the filibuster. Be tough, be smart, and win. This is much bigger than the shutdown. This is the survival of our country. So the looming threat over this is that, of course, the Democrats are going to terminate the filibuster, and they're going to pack the courts, and they're going to add a couple states, which is going to give them 4 more senators and all this, and it'll be the end of America. So there have been votes to end it. They haven't had the support to do it. There's always this threat that this is what's going to happen, that they're going to pack the courts. I don't know if you guys remember this, but they were also going to pack the courts in the last administration as well, except for that was like never a conversation the entire time. Let's go to a couple more posts from Trump here. Shorter one here. Terminate the filibuster, not just for the shutdown, but for everything else. We will get all of our common sense policies approved, voter ID, anyone, and make America great again. Remember, the Democrats will do it immediately as soon as they get the chance. Our doing it will not give them the chance. Republicans, be tough and smart. The Dems are crazed lunatics. They will not open up our country no matter how many people are irreparably harmed. So just a little bit more. They're going to do this. We need to get some of our common sense policies, voter ID, those kind of things. And here is the most recent one. This one was this morning at 7:21 a.m. He says the Democrats are far more likely to win the midterms and the next presidential election if we don't terminate the filibuster. The nuclear option, exclamation point. Because it will be impossible for Republicans to get common sense policies done with these crazed Democrat lunatics being able to block everything by withholding their votes. For 3 years, nothing will be passed and Republicans will be blamed. Elections, including the midterms, will be rightfully brutal. If we do terminate the filibuster, we will get everything approved, like no Congress in history. We will have fair, free, and safe elections, no men and women's sports, or transgender for everybody. Transgender for all would be a better policy proposal by the Democrats. Strong borders, major tax and energy cuts, and we'll secure our Second Amendment, which the Democrats will also terminate. They're going to terminate an amendment if we don't do this immediately. If we don't do it, they're far more likely to do well in the upcoming elections, which would mean a packed Supreme Court, 2 more states and 4 more Democrat senators, D.C. and Puerto Rico, and 8 more electoral votes. Remember, Republicans, they are going to end the filibuster as soon as they get the chance. We know this because they already tried and failed, and the only 2 people who didn't go along are now out of office. But they have much less chance of winning if we have great policy wins after wins after wins. In fact, they will lose big and for a very long time. Terminate the filibuster now, end the ridiculous shutdown immediately, and then, most importantly, pass every wonderful Republican policy that we have dreamt of for years but never gotten. We will be the party that cannot be beaten, the smart party. If I were a Democrat, if I were one of those people who thought that we were going to have Trump was going to institute like this fascist Nazi takeover, this authoritarian dictatorship takeover, I'd be freaking out right now the way he's talking about this. Like this is just, we'll be the party that cannot be beaten after we terminate the filibuster and we get through every single thing that we ever wanted, including election laws, stuff like that. They got to be freaking out right now about this whole thing. I'm not paying much attention to it, but they have to be. So my thing is that I like the filibuster. I think the less things the government is able to do, the better. And having to get 60 votes to do something, to me, is pretty great. That means it's got to be overwhelmingly popular. Now, the flip side of that is the times where they do get it, that tends to be like these bipartisan things. And what do we always say about bipartisan things? The things that both parties agree on are universally terrible. Like most of the time, they're universally terrible. But terminating this and making it easier for a party to do something, it's enticing, like while your party is in power, right? I get it. Some of these things he has mentioned, like I agree with some of these things. I think voter ID is great. I don't know what mechanism they're going to have to go through to be able to control how all the states do their elections. But whatever, it sounds great when you put it in the truth. No men and women's sports or transgender for everybody. I would like to not have any federal funding go towards any transgender stuff. Border should be strong. I would be in favor of legislation for immigration. I think that would be good. One issue with the fact that Trump in this first term widely shut down immigration or illegal immigration, still a lot of illegal immigration, and then Biden just allowed millions and millions of people in, and then Trump came back in office and then he brought it back down to almost none. Is that this mechanism is just largely being controlled by the administration. It's not really being controlled by acts of Congress. So I think it would be good to not have to depend on who the president is as to whether or not you're going to have like a massive invasion of your country. I think that'd be fine. That's what I'm saying. You guys know how I am with walls and stuff like that. It's my biggest Republican platform, I guess. What's to stop, like if they terminate it now, which by the way, from the research I can find, it's only happened a couple times, and it's really only happened for getting Supreme Court justices in. Harry Reid did it in 2013, and then Mitch McConnell did it. And those were both to get Supreme Court justices on the bench because there was a stalemate on getting votes for those. And so they decided to terminate it for this vote, get the Supreme Court justice in, and then it was back on. So doing this in order to pass tons of legislation, like country-changing legislation, would be very different. And I think it's just the genie's out of the bottle at that time, and you don't like the genie. The genie's going to kill you. And so I'm not a big fan of that. I would like to continue to make it harder for the government to do anything. And well, I'll admit it's enticing. Like if some of the things the government would do would be to reduce the powers of the government and to reduce the things the government spends money on. Like that's a thing I would like the government to do. I would. But one, I don't have any confidence that they're actually going to pursue a course that would take us down that road, decreasing the power of the government or reducing the amount of money they spend on things. I don't really know if that one's going to happen. And then, like I just said, genie's out of the bottle at that time, unless you're going to codify into law the filibuster, which is just like a procedural rule that they can vote to take off if they want to. If you're going to like codify that into law that it has to be 60 votes all the time and it can't be terminated. Like if they were to do all these actions and then say, all right, and our last action is that no one can ever do this again. That's one thing, I guess. But that's not what's going to happen. They're going to say, all right, it's back on. And then, okay, so a Democrat wins. By the way, I don't think it's going to mean that the Republicans are just going to sweep the midterms in the next election or anything. Democrats will be in power again. In fact, I think a lot of Democrats would be very upset about this. They would actually have more of a reason to make sure that they have even then a simple majority to prevent those votes from happening. So, or a supermajority if they put the filibuster back on, like they would have more of an incentive to do that. In my opinion, I think it'd be more likely you would lose the midterms and potentially the next election if you were to do something like this. And then what do they do afterwards? They terminate the filibuster and they do all the stuff that you just said you're afraid of them doing, but since they've talked about that for a long time and never done it, they end up doing it because you just did it. And then at that point, they're right when they say it. Like, well, the Republicans are terminated the filibuster to get all of their little projects that they ever cared about through. And so why wouldn't we do the same thing? So that's, I'm not big on that. Mike Johnson had something to say about this. People are upset about that. I guess I won't play the video because we need to get into Dumb Bleep of the Month, and I don't want this episode to go on too long. But those are my thoughts immediately on terminating the filibuster. It's one of those things where I'm like, you should do the right thing and not give people reasons to do terrible things later in the future or excuses to do terrible things in the future when they can look back and say, well, look, they did it too. I don't think it's ever right to look back and say that person did something bad, therefore I have to do something bad as well, or I can do something bad as well. That is a losing scenario for everyone in the long run. Things just get worse and worse over time if everyone believes that that's the way to do things. And I would rather allow the Democrats to destroy themselves to do terrible things and be the terrible side of the aisle. And then Republicans, like eventually, once people see that, the Republicans are like, see, we never do that kind of crap. They're the ones that are insane. We're not insane. We're holding to the Constitution over here, you know? And then on a long enough term scale, maybe you win. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that at Good AM Liberty on X, Nate at goodmorningliberty.us. Dumb Bleep of the Month starts with September. I didn't do one for September specifically because it only had 2. We only did 2 in September. I don't know how that happened. I went back. I think Charlie was gone 1 week. I was gone a week, something like that. And so we only did 2 in September. And the second one, in my opinion, hopefully everyone agrees with me after I explain it to them. The second one, number 2, I believe should be disqualified. I actually found out a couple days after it won that it probably should have been disqualified. I probably should have done a little bit more research, and I'm going to take the blame for that. I'm going to take the responsibility for that, and I'll tell you the whole story. So let's get to number 1, which would be a really easy one. You guys remember the whole Pam Bondi hate speech thing, that whole fiasco? Of course, we're talking about September now. This comes right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That happened on September 10th. And this stuff started happening like 5 days later. Yeah, September 15th is when this clip started going around. I'll go ahead and play the clip from the Katie Miller podcast. Katie Miller, wife of Stephen Miller. Katie Miller, the person that you saw freaking out on that Piers Morgan interview from Dumb Bleep of the Week last week, that Katie Miller. And so here's this clip.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. There's free speech and then...
All right. So that clip went pretty viral for obvious reasons. One of the dumber parts of this was said in response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And so you would think that if you're going to do something in response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that you would not do something, whatever thing it is that you choose would not be something that Charlie Kirk would presumably absolutely been against. Now she tries to walk it back. And she talks about all this hate speech, but she ends up describing like a bunch of things that are actually illegal, like taking illegal actions, stuff like that. That's not really what that clip said. There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And Charlie Kirk spoke out many times about the idea of hate speech, especially coming from a party who's been accused of hate speech for so long, and a party and an ideology and a political movement that fought for what people deem to be hate speech for so long. We went through the whole COVID, BLM, insane ridiculousness, the wokening of America occurring sometime after 2014, 2015, things going crazy on college campuses, stuff like that. And then just turn around and say that you're somehow going to police hate speech? No. Well, that's not good. You can go back to, the times that we talked about that week when it happened if you want my full thoughts. She had a busy day that day. You can tell because each one of these clips she's wearing the same outfit. And so she was out there going on about hate speech a few times. So here's a few clips of that.
Sure. First Amendment is one of our most important amendments, of course, in our Constitution. We will always protect the First Amendment. But you cannot create violence, and that's what's happening. When people are working together, you talked about RICO, it's RICO. When people are working in concert to commit crimes, the president was talking about people who are breaking up bricks, throwing it at police cars, people who are being paid to dox police officers, to dox victims of crimes, that can jeopardize lives. And that's when you cross the line from First Amendment to a crime, and we will prosecute.
Yeah, so once again in that clip, she's just describing things that could be actual incitement to violence or things that are actual violence. Like, yes, you can't assault someone and then claim free speech. So she's like, yeah, that's a hate speech, and we're going to go after that. So that's her kind of doing a little mop up thing. Here's a little bit more. One of these, this clip right here concerns, is it Office Depot? Whichever state, I don't remember which one it was that wouldn't print posters for a Charlie Kirk vigil. I highly disagree with that. And at that point in time, I haven't looked into it since then. At that point in time, the main employee in the video had been fired. I think there were 2 employees in the video at least. They probably both should have been fired. I don't think a company should have this policy whatsoever. They don't have this policy. Those employees were breaking a policy, and so they got fired. However, I think a company could have this policy if they want to. If there are specific things that they don't want to print for political reasons or what have you. Well, let me just play this before we go into it too far.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But
so this is her bake the cake moment, essentially. There really is no businesses cannot discriminate. I guess there could be, there's some laws saying that. I don't know if they cover people's politics or not, but even the laws that don't cover people's politics, that cover people's sexuality or whatever, Republicans have been pretty outspoken in saying that the business should be able to discriminate. Now, unfortunately, what they'll do is they'll kind of cover that in religious reasons, like you should be able to discriminate because of your religion. And that's always bothered me a lot, because it's not the principle of this is my property and this is my time and you should not be able to come here and force me to do things for you. That's why you should be able to discriminate or not do business with someone who is coming in and asking to do business with you, because you're a free human being and shouldn't be forced into doing business with that person. But they've always covered that in religious freedom. So if your religion says somewhere in a book that you can't bake a cake for a gay couple, then you shouldn't be forced to do that. And that's always been the issue with that argument, in my opinion. But businesses should be able to discriminate. Office Depot should be able to say that they don't want to print a Charlie Kirk poster. They should. I'll throw in this clip of Trump. He weighed in a little bit when they asked him about the hate speech thing. And he says that the media is engaging in hate speech by being mean to him. So here we go.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
She'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me.
So, should go after you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. And that's the response to, what do you say to Pam Bondi's hate speech comments? Well, you treat me unfairly, which is hate because you hate me, and so therefore your speech is hate speech, and we should go after you. So, overall, it was a pretty dumb span, a couple days there for the Trump administration and just some of the higher-ups there, and Trump himself. Since seems to have sort of backed off on that a little bit. I haven't heard a whole lot about policing hate speech really since then, unless it concerns a certain group of people. That was Dumb Bleep number 1 for September. Dumb Bleep number 2. This was a clear winner this week, and after doing some more research on this, because of the way that it was originally worded in this Blaze article with this headline here, even Kash Patel himself came out and said, yeah, that's not what that said. So the Blaze Media article that got Charlie like all fired up, ranting about this situation. The Blaze Media article says the FBI had 274 plainclothes agents embedded in January 6th crowds, congressional source says. And so There's this after-action report comes out, shows 274 plainclothes agents. What it did not say is that those agents were embedded in the crowds on January 6th. That was implied or assumed or speculated. Now, I'm still one to believe that even if it wasn't these 274 agents that were in the after-action report, what about all the other ones that weren't in the report? That's the question I would have. Okay, I would bet a lot of money on the idea that there were a lot of feds out there and that they were stirring people up, because there is a well-documented history of the feds doing this. So, yeah, I think that would be good money to place on that. Is it entirely their fault? Like, were they at the front at the barricades knocking them down? Were they assaulting police officers? I think some more digging should happen. I think every single agent, even the people who aren't listed here, every single one of them should be found out that were there. We have video footage of all of it. They should each be identified in the camera footage, and they should each be watched throughout the entire day to see if any of them committed any crimes that anyone was arrested and charged for and imprisoned for, or any extra crimes, like inciting the riot or whatever the case may be. But that is not what the report actually said. That is what that Blaze Media article said. So I can go to this Fox News article that says Kash Patel clarifies role of hundreds of agents on Jan 6. Says Ray lied to Congress. The FBI responded on Saturday to report that 274 plainclothes agents were at the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, clarifying the role of the Bureau personnel while still blasting former Director Christopher Wray. While the agents were on hand, they were sent in after the riot had begun to try to control the unruly crowd, officials told Fox News Digital. That is not the proper role of FBI agents, and Wray was not forthcoming about what happened when he testified numerous times. Quote, agents were sent into a crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, something that goes against FBI standards. So, in this case, I would still like to follow all of these FBI agents on camera. We know who each one of them are. We should be able to find them. There are thousands of hours of video footage, and we should see if they went in there to control the crowds or if they sent in people once the riot had started to party along with everyone else that was there. I would still like to know. But we did not characterize it this way when we did Dumb Bleep of the Week that week. We characterized it the way that the Blaze characterized it, was that there were that many agents embedded in the crowd, undercover, on January 6th, which clearly implies that many of them could have been involved in inciting the riot, starting the riot, getting people agitated, things like that. That is not what this particular report said. We may get more reports in the future. I just wanted to clarify that for everyone, because I don't want to ever see y'all saying stuff that ain't true that you heard from here. You say stuff that ain't true that you heard from other people, not me. So that's September. Personally, now I'm not going to disqualify because the day went. Personally, I would not consider the second one for September until we get more information. That's just me. You guys can vote on that whenever you want. October, there were a few more. I think there were 5 in October. So here's number 1 for October. Number 1 was called Shutdown Plus Meme. So in this Dumb Bleep, which was Dumb Bleep number 9 for the first week of October, we talked about the government shutdown itself and this meme of Hakeem Jeffries going around that Trump had posted, then he posted another, and then it just kind of kept going, of a sombrero and a mustache, and a little bit of music playing in the background a couple times. Before we get to that, I'll talk about the shutdown. The dumbest and craziest part about the shutdown, in my opinion, is that what Republicans are trying to do, which is something that I wouldn't even want them to do, but I don't know, what else are they even going to get passed? They can't even get this passed. I guess they must. They need to terminate the filibuster. They're just trying to do a continuing resolution, and then we'll probably do another continuing resolution, and then another one after that, and we'll just keep spending more and more money as time goes on with all those little inflation adjustments built in. So that's dumb. The Democrats don't want to do that. The Democrats' main thing that they have objected to and asked for in order to end the shutdown is a extension of the enhanced Obamacare subsidies. The enhanced Obamacare subsidies were a temporary provision, originally a temporary one-year provision during COVID in the American Rescue Plan to help people out with their health insurance during a tough time that the government was imposing on all of us. So for all the people who currently qualified for the healthcare exchange, the subsidies on the healthcare exchange, they cut their maximum payout by roughly half, maybe to 60%. The people at the lower end of the income spectrum, they actually reduced down to zero, fully subsidized for that bottom quintile or whatever the category is. And then where there was an income cap where you wouldn't qualify for subsidies, they took that off, and then they subsidized insurance for people who are making like $400,000 a year. And as you can imagine, that costs a lot of money. As you can also imagine, during COVID, plus enhanced subsidies, hiding the true cost of the insurance premiums, while insurance premiums had a reason to go up as well, with healthcare and all that getting more expensive during this time. The plans got more and more expensive for people. The next year, through the Inflation Reduction Act, they did a 3-year extension of that 1-year temporary enhanced subsidy. And so it was scheduled by Democrats who signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law. It was scheduled by Democrats to expire at the end of 2025. And now here we are at the end of 2025, and they are saying we will keep the government shut down. At this point, it's been 36 days, something like that, maybe 35 days that the government's been shut down, which, whatever, I don't care. Because they want to, again, extend this temporary 3-year extension of a temporary 1-year enhancement of the Obamacare subsidies. And so that's pretty dumb. One of the more infuriating things that most people won't think about on top of this is that this is what, they always do those 10-year budget projections. And they did one for the Inflation Reduction Act. And when they did the Inflation Reduction Act, they told you the Inflation Reduction Act was actually going to save us money on the deficit, like $80 billion, something like that. They told you that. And inside of that Inflation Reduction Act was a 3-year extension of these enhanced Obamacare subsidies. What they didn't tell you at that time was when the 3 years was up, they were going to demand that this were continued for the rest of all time until the entire system crumbles and falls apart. Meaning the Inflation Reduction Act itself was much more expensive and actually added money to the deficit, and they probably knew that. They just did a 3-year thing to push it past the next presidential election. That's the dumb part about why we're on a government shutdown right now. The next part is all the crying about Trump posting funny memes like this.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
There's no community note attached to that, so fact check true. There was then another one after people got really upset about that one. It's super racist and all that kind of stuff. No, I don't really know why. Hakeem Jeffries is not even, he's not Mexican, so I don't know. But Trump says, hold my beer. And I like what Michael Scar was just saying in the group. I tend to think this is really funny, in my opinion. I think that they're like, if we get one really great thing from the Trump administration, I think this is it. You shouldn't take these people seriously. It's like, oh, this is a member of Congress. This is the minority leader of the House. Who cares? You suck. I'm sick of acting like you're some kind of part of royalty in America. You're not. And so I'm cutting these people down to size. I think that's a good thing. I'm fine with that. So here we go.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
All right. I like that one because it's sort of a surprise. Like, it looks like he's just going to post a clip of Jeffries talking on MSNBC, and it's like a sneak attack kind of thing, you know? So you still click on it, you want to watch what clip he's posting, and so like a sneaky thing comes in. It's still really funny. Okay. People are upset about this. People are big mad. I've got some of the clips. It's you know, almost a month after the fact that I go back and find all these clips and everything that weren't showing up in my bookmarks. And here's Jeffries being mad.
Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me.
Yeah.
Don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
The funnier part about this is that Trump is absolutely someone who will say something to your face. That's like acting like Trump is too scared to say something to your face is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he'll do it to the head of another country in front of a bunch of cameras. He will absolutely like give you a signed sombrero that says Trump 2028 on it. Actually, I'm not sure why they didn't do that. They totally should have done that. This is another congressperson. What was her name? Teresa Fernandez. The dumber part about this one is just when people do this code switching for specific words in the middle of a sentence. I don't know. I don't understand it, but a lot of people do it. Like if you're just talking, and then you just say like a Spanish word, and for some reason, you can't say the Spanish word in your accent with your normal dialect in the way that you say all of the other words. You're as if you're somehow going to trick people into thinking that you're also Spanish. If you're not, I mean, her last name is Fernandez, so, you know, you tell me, but that's not how she talks. It's not. Do people need this? Are there people who are Latino who are listening to us right now who are like, oh yeah, I love it. It makes me feel so warm and fuzzy when they say that one word in the middle of all the other words in that accent. I don't know.
That's right. And then what does that shameful man do? After a meeting where you're supposed to be working out details, where you're supposed to be negotiating a deal, you post something that draws a sombrero and a mustache on the leader with whom you're supposed to be. That's right. And then what does that...
I mean, I guess I get, like, when I was younger, I used to try to say, like, when I go to a Mexican restaurant, I would try to say the stuff in a way that the person I was ordering from would find respectable, I guess, to earn their respect. And so they would know what I was saying also, like they hadn't been taking orders from English speakers all day or whatever. I don't do that anymore. Like, I don't even try. In fact, I just pronounce all the letters the way I pronounce them in American, because I just ain't gonna try anymore. Like me deciding to try and say Pollo Loco. That's not how I talk. I call that thing Polo Loco, man. That's how I talk. All right, here we go. I'm going to switch to another video before I get too weird. Anything else ridiculous happen? The other thing, that's a good point here. Democrats just don't get it. They're one of the things that happened in this last election cycle was the Democrats for a bit there were like the ones that were kind of cool and hip. I don't know. Didn't it feel like that for a minute? Maybe it was just Obama kind of had that vibe. I don't know. And that immediately stopped. Republicans found a way to relate to the common man and woman. And they don't understand the meme thing. They don't understand like embracing something that people are doing to make fun of you in order to shut it down. They'd rather just be so offended by it. And they truly don't understand because they act like this thing that Hakeem Jeffries posted, they act like posting one of those memes of J.D. Vance that I literally laugh about still. I don't know why. I still laugh when I see many of the J.D. Vance memes. They're just so perfect. His face was made for so many of these memes. And what he has done is he's embraced it. He has posted the memes before. He laughs about them. He's been interviewed. He talks about what his favorite ones are. And for Halloween this year, which I didn't pull it up, he actually dressed up as one of the J.D. Vance memes. Like that's funny. And it's a way to shut it down. Like you took that whole thing, like we're going to make fun of J.D. Vance, and you stole it from them as like this badge of honor somehow. It's pretty cool, but they don't get it. Like they're, ooh, let me get you, you mean bully. How do you like it when I put...
You said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders.
Your fat head.
What message does that send? Is it helpful
on your head?
Post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities.
What? They're so far removed from like the culture or reality. If you're not watching, it's like this is him talking and they just crudely pasted one of the J.D. Vance memes over his head while he's talking, like that they think that this is going to get under his skin. Really? It's like he probably thought it was hilarious, and it's embarrassing for the Democrats. This is him actually having a response.
He said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
J.D. Vance is going to win like 90% of the men vote in 2028 because he gets it. He just seems to get it on this. All right, that's number one. Let's go to number two. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, let me get to this. Yeah, that's number one. Let's go to number two. All right, this one is the Jay Jones thing. As some of you guys might remember, and today actually happens to be election day on this whole matter. The Jay Jones thing happened where some text messages came out where he talked about pissing on these people's graves. He says 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people, and he receives both bullets every time. And the person he's texting says, please stop. They didn't have a phone conversation. And he's talking about wishing that Gilbert's children would die. And he says, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. And he says, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. So that was the controversy. And the weirder part about this is that when it actually comes down to it, because Democrats end up getting like offended by everything, they're always the ones that go, oh my God, all the time. But when it comes to something like this, it ended up with like no major Democrats denouncing this guy, requesting that he drop out. I think Joe Scarborough was probably the biggest Democrat to say, yeah, he's probably should drop out of the race. And even Mika was like, okay. Very funny. Abigail Spanberger, she was asked about this in a debate. She's running for governor. Winsome Spears has been hoping that this was going to take her down in the polls because she just stood by this guy and stood by her endorsement of this guy. And that's just, it's not something that Democrats would ever let go. And they would be super offended by it. Here was her, this exchange in the debate.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue, so I want to just make sure. Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they released? You have 30 seconds.
In fact, it appears that it was those who released the text messages and held them for years. So the public was unaware who had knowledge of these text messages for many years.
What did you do about it?
I learned of these text messages the day that they came out, and I denounced them as soon as I learned of them.
She denounces murder.
And importantly, at this point, as we move forward, the voters now have this information that was withheld for them.
You're running
presumably for political reasons, but the voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Spanberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about her lieutenant governor nominee.
Ms. Earl Sayers,
and it's up to every person to make their own decision. I am running my race to serve Virginia, and that is what I intend to do.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger.
All right, so will not retract her endorsement of this person, does denounce the messages themselves, and then tries to pivot to blaming the person who withheld this information from the public as if they are the bad person in this scenario, saying they were withheld and released for political reasons, which they were, but that's part of politics, and you just have to deal with that. You can't use that to get away from the content of the messages and what they say and what they mean, which is what she tried to do. And she's probably, I think if you were going to bet, you would say she's probably going to win today. In fact, Jay Jones might also win today. The polls are back and forth on that. Emerson College still has him up 3. Atlas Intel has his opponent up 2. Atlas Intel is typically pretty accurate, though, so it's kind of a toss-up right now, in my opinion, for this election. Depends on what's driving Republicans or Democrats out to vote, I guess. But the fact that you can do that and then still be celebrated by so many people, for instance, like this big rally that they had where Obama came to speak, that Jay Jones spoke at. Here's the beginning of that
Virginia.
rally. Oh.
And I know it starts right here in Norfolk. So if you're ready to elect a governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, members of the House of Delegates, and Democrats up and down the ballot this year, you will make some noise.
All right, so he's speaking at this thing. This is a rally for Abigail Spanberger and the Democrat Party in general. And here's an unfortunate clip of Obama saying an unfortunate quote about Spanberger after everything that we know about the Jay Jones thing.
And Abigail doesn't just believe in working with everybody, she also believes, and this is really important, in listening to everybody, whether they voted for her or not. Because she knows that if we want to make progress on the things that we care about, we have to be able to disagree without calling each other nasty names or demonizing each other.
Everyone in there cheering is going to be voting for a guy who said he wished a Republican's children would die. Just to Claire, all those people cheering after what Obama just said. They're still going to vote for a guy who said that if it were 2 bullets and it was this guy Gilbert and Hitler and Pol Pot, that he would shoot the Republican guy twice and he would leave alive Hitler and Pol Pot, and that he wished that that person's children would die in their mother's arms. And they're cheering for what Obama just said. I'll play that again.
We have to be able to disagree without calling each other nasty names or demonizing each other. So at a time when our politics feels broken, we need desperately leaders like Abigail, public servants who are in it for the right reasons. And are
Don't worry, we have plenty more about Obama, so because he's the next one. He is the next one. So he was the winner of the third Dumb Bleep. That was number 2. This is number 3, and this one was called Obama/No Kings. The No Kings protests were coming up the following weekend, and so we were talking about that, and we played this video by Obama, who was very concerned about authoritarianism. And while he's not saying it like outright directly, he's talking about what he's concerned going on in America. And so I'll play that clip from Obama.
Many of you,
let me get this bigger here. Let me restart it, and we'll play that.
like many of you, I've become increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe. We're seeing politicians target civil society, undermine freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system. And no one is being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all part of this struggle. That's an enormous challenge. Like many...
Oh, God. Lord, help me. Lord, help me on this one. My God. Okay. It's that sort of, if you feel yourself getting worked up, getting upset when you hear him talking about this. I know this was like the favorite word of 2024, but it's gaslighting that makes you feel that way. It's knowing that this person does and did all of the things that they are now pretending to be concerned about another person doing, and pretending that they didn't do those things, and hoping that all of those things get memory hold, and that they can now stand up there on the moral high ground and talk about how they are concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism and weaponizing the justice system and all the like. Undermining freedom of the press. Things like that. And so he clearly just hopes that you forget that he was bombing 7 countries at the same time, like right after he got the Nobel Peace Prize, and even intentionally drone bombed some American citizens, killing the American citizen without due process, saying you could hold citizens indefinitely, things like that. Mandated that everyone buy a product like health insurance, while pushing and signing into law that people be fined for not buying a product, and then also destroying an entire industry right afterwards. That's pretty crazy. Had an IRS scandal specifically targeting Republicans, conservative groups, because they were conservative groups with the IRS. Gun running at the Mexican border, something that eventually ended up one of the guns being used to kill a border patrol agent. Freedom of the press, arresting whistleblowers and journalists whose main crime, like they'll cite the law or whatever, they'll cite the Espionage Act, or they'll cite things like that. Their crime really was telling people about the crimes that he was committing, or that the U.S. government was committing. Like, that is really what they were upset about. And so to then come back and be talking about freedom of the press and stuff like that when you arrested people or people fled the country because you were going to arrest them for telling people about crimes that you were committing. That's awesome. Weaponizing the justice system. Russiagate. You know, probably participating, going along with the plan for the Democratic nominee's plan, at least, to frame the Republican nominee for treason. It's a pretty big one. Pretty big. Let me tell you what. And he wore a tan suit. And that is the real crime. Like I said, it was Obama / No Kings. This was in the lead up to the No Kings protest. And I saw this thing going around about the 18 countries that were participating. And yeah, as you can guess, of the 18 countries on this current list that's in front of us right now, at least half of them, 9 or 10 of them actually have kings. And they're going to have a No Kings protest. They have literal monarchies with royalty and royal families and people who just get money simply because of what their bloodline is and get to wear all the crown jewels and make a couple decisions here and there in some countries, and other countries that, can operate like actual kings. One of them, not a king, it's an emperor in Japan. It's another word for a king. And so you just sort of have to imagine the way your brain functions. I mean, just think about first off, to be an American who's like, yeah, thank you to all these countries that are participating in the No Kings protests, and not be like, wait, isn't this weird? They have kings. What will the king think about this protest? But then to be the people in the countries who are like, yes, no kings, but you live in a country that literally has a monarchy. Maybe it was a dual protest. Maybe they also wanted to point out that they don't like having their kings there as well. The Democrats abroad thing was really funny, though, because they changed the no kings to no tyrants, because their kings in those countries are not tyrants, and they want the king to know that so as to not get in trouble with the king. So it pleased the crown to change this to no tyrants instead of no kings. No crowns is no clowns. That pleased the crown, upset the clowns. Yes, absolutely ridiculous, and just shows you exactly how serious much of the movement is. Number 4 goes to Graham Plattner, I think is his last name. Let me see here. Graham, I think it's Plattner. I don't want to get that wrong. I don't want to get anyone's name wrong here. Yeah, Graham Plattner. Haven't heard much about this in a little bit. And not really just Graham Plattner. Honestly, it goes to a bunch of the Democrats out there. So I don't know if you remember this controversy. It was hot for a minute, and then it's gone, like many things are. You just got to wait them out for a few days, and then they're gone, and then no one ever talks about them again. Something people will bring up every once in a while, but not really a lot. Graham Plattner, it came out that he had a tattoo. It was a video of him singing shirtless at a wedding, I believe, is where the original video came from. And he had a tattoo. And it turns out that it was a literal Nazi tattoo. So that's not good. That's unfortunate. Now he says this is not his fault. And to be honest with you, I understand the immediate situation where the tattoo took place. To me, does not mean that he's in fact like a literal Nazi. So I do want to say that. I don't think that is the immediate evidence that we have. Okay. He's in the military. They get off the boat. Him and his buddies decide to go get tattoos. They see a tattoo on the wall. It looks cool. And they get the tattoo. If you're in Croatia and you see skull and crossbones, like maybe just overall not safe to get any kind of symbols tattooed on you that you see up on the wall in certain countries. Okay. Could be. The issue is he got it 18 years ago, something like that. It was a while back. Pretty long time ago. I think it was 18 years. There was something in there. It's a long time. Now, as to whether or not people had told him this is clearly a Nazi tattoo, dude, what are you doing? What's going on here? And then he was like, I don't like this tattoo. I don't care if it's a Nazi tattoo. That's ridiculous. Come on. Whether or not he was ever told that, I guess that remains in question. And I can sort of like let the situation with him specifically slide. Because I've got a couple tattoos. I've never looked to see if they are important to any symbolism throughout history whatsoever. Never thought about ever looking at it. Maybe some people would have seen it and they would have known. They'd had to be seen by someone who's like familiar with what specific groups of SS soldiers during World War II were wearing, which there were a lot of people who were into that kind of history. And so maybe they would know. Sure, whatever. The dumber part about this really goes to Democrats, because as we all know, like, obviously, if it were a Republican candidate who maybe accidentally got a symbol used by the SS who were watching over the concentration camps during the Holocaust, tattooed on themselves, and then they kept it on themselves for quite some time, they would never let this go. It would be clear that this person was a Nazi, even if like none of his policy. It could be like a libertarian or some libertarian leaning person, and it came up that they had this symbol on them. Turns out Nazis wore it. Like if it didn't align with any of their policies, nothing they were caught saying, nothing like that. It would just be clear as day. This person's a Nazi. This is fascism. This is the Republican Party. This is what's happening, and it would never stop. They would just never talk. They would never stop talking about it, ever. But in this case, they're like, well, yeah, you know, I get it. Yeah, it's a Nazi tattoo on him. Says he got it covered up, which his story about getting it covered up is BS. He was like, yeah, I went to a tattoo parlor last night, got this thing covered up. He got it covered up with a temporary tattoo. It's very clear from the pictures it's a temporary tattoo. I don't know if he's had it officially removed or anything yet since then. Whatever, but they're just like, oh, you know, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous conspiracy theory. Clearly, this guy is not a Nazi. Is that a Nazi symbol? Yes, but he obviously didn't know that. And, you know, when you listen to his reasoning behind the whole thing, it sort of makes sense. And of course, what you find is it's just really all politics. That's really all it is. They're not even concerned about Nazis. They're not concerned about symbolism. They're just concerned about ways that they can be in power. That's what they're actually concerned about. I give a little bit of the dumb to Republicans also, who decided to make a massive deal about this, when if they were accused of the same thing, they'd be backing up that person's story. This is a team sport, I guess, and this is what happens in political parties. In this case, a lot of Republicans were talking about it, and Democrats saying it's no big deal. If it would have been flip-flopped, Democrats would have made it a way bigger deal, and Republicans would have been like, oh, come on, this is ridiculous. Why do you hate the troops? Something like that. So, yeah, a lot of hypocrisy here. It's from both sides all the time. And I get, you know, I'm going to try to not lose my cool so much on this, because I think most people are like this. Most people do the team sport thing. And, you know, there must be a reason that most people do it. It must be fairly natural, or even a natural defense mechanism. Not excusing it. I'm just going to try to not act like everyone is so completely insane. Just a little insane, but not completely insane. But this is a typical thing. You want your team to win. You will excuse the things that your team does in order to try and get your team to win. And in what I just said, I could have either been describing Democrats or Republicans. That sounds like both of them. That's a pretty typical thing. Libertarians, exact opposite. Your team can do nothing right. There is no team, actually. Teams are collectivists. Screw the team. In fact, if I see a team, I'm going to try to destroy it. That is the natural libertarian inclination towards teams. So, no teams protest. Is that a winning strategy? When you're in an extreme minority? No, it is not. If everyone thought that way, then yes, I guess it would be. It would be the proper way. But while almost no one has that ideology, it is a losing strategy until you achieve your goal of educating the population of what is wrong with their brains and what they could do differently, which I don't see as something that's insanely possible, but is the right thing to do and can work for some people, and that's a good thing. Who knows? Maybe it'll have an exponential effect over time. I'm one of those guys that was changed from, the way I used to think about things. And so, I still tend to think that people can be changed as well. That's number 4. Here's number 5. This one was called Snap People. The Snap thing, I don't know if any partial payments have gone out. This is a compilation of people responding to EBT being cut off, some people talking about looting. The compilation starts off with someone boasting about how much stuff they're buying. I just kind of put that in there at the beginning to kind of make fun of the situation a little bit. As I said beforehand, as far as all of the individuals who receive SNAP benefits, 35% of them are white people. 24% of them are black people. And then the other groups make up the rest. And so while you're watching this, you might see one specific group more often than another. It's not intentional. Those are just the videos I could find. But I feel the need to point out, because I don't just like singling out specific groups of people because of that libertarian conversation we just had before. Most of the people on SNAP benefits are white people and not the people that you will see in this video. Here you go.
So we walking in Walmart. My kids,
I do apologize, by the way. This video is super annoying, but it is the winner from last week. It's an 8-minute video. I promise. I'm only going to play half of it. I'll only play 4 minutes just as a teaser, as a taste of what everyone had to go through last week.
Whatever they want. This is how it's looking right now, and we're not even halfway done, y'all. I found these cute little things for their snack time. I think they'll like these. That Maui, wowie. All right, Johnny, you got 2. Robbie, get 1 more. All right, come on, let's go. 2 boxes of pea. Let get it. Let go. Let get it. Let go. They gonna try these little cute things in their lunch. If you get it, I'm gonna make you eat it. Get it. Come on. Come on. Put it in the bucket. Y'all knew I was not leaving here without my credit. Bye. We checking out. Cart 2.
So I get $3,000 in food stamps. Obviously it's 8 of us, so you do the math. That's why I get $3,000. I have no income, so obviously I'm gonna get the full benefit amount. Does that make you mad too? Does it make you mad that the government is helping me feed my children? Does that make you want to punch me in my face? Does that make you angry? Does that make you shiver in your boots? Yeah. Be mad. Stay mad.
I just wanted to come real fast just to make this video, just to make something very, very clear to the white man. Black Americans do not care about your government shutdown, and Black Americans do not care about you taking away our EBT and our government assistance, because Black Americans never depended on the American government to take care of us and feed us, because we never could. We were never able to depend on the government, in spite of what you may say and what you may try to force us to believe. So you can sit back and you can mock, you can laugh, and you can think that you're about to starve us to death. But I'm here to let you know that we are going to eat regardless, even if we have to hunt you animals down and roast and eat you. The delectable crack crackers and cheese. We will make it happen if we have to. Trust and believe me. And if it takes this government shutdown for Black people to finally come from under the government and understand that we don't need to be paying our taxes into this government, what we really need to be doing is taking care of one another, buying land and growing our own food and building our own nation. If this government shutdown and starvation is what it's going to take, then let the party begin. It's Black power, baby, and we rise.
Please stop donating meal kits to food pantries. First of all, this is not disability accessible. People have food allergies, people are gluten intolerant, people are lactose intolerant. In fact, a lot of non-white people are lactose intolerant. And this also takes away choice and autonomy to poor people. You're saying, here, I meal planned for you, instead of letting them choose what they should do with the food. And I'm not saying this to be callous, but all of these recipes are for white people. Okay? And people who are not white.
This one, I'll just cut in on this one and not play it anymore. I'm sorry I put everyone through that. I didn't even suffer through the whole thing. I left to go pee during it, like I did last week. This one was frustrating to me because I saw, maybe it was Nina Turner posting about something about people need to be donating to food banks, or Republicans need to be donating to food banks, or something like that. And I was like, that since I voted Republican in the last election, I was like, I can't. Or, like this person goes on to say, essentially, they're saying not to donate to food banks because it can be racist to donate this food, because most of the stuff people are donating is white food. De facto saying that it's white people mostly donating to food banks. But so if I go to donate to a food bank, which some people say I'm supposed to do, I guess, do I also have to go decide, do I have to go to the grocery store and buy like black food? Whatever. Do I have to go buy Mexican food? Or, I'm just going to go through, that aisle in the grocery store? I just have to go through there and buy a bunch of stuff and donate to food banks. And then that's racist too. Like if I go decide what these non-white food options are to make this girl happy, then I'm going to go do something racist probably at a food bank by deciding to donate certain types of food to the food banks. And yeah, white people are poor too, like what Mead just said. In fact, 35% of the people who are on SNAP are white people. So statistically, you'd be doing better if you're donating to the people that need their SNAP, but they're not getting it, to just pick whatever the heck white food is, I guess. Okay. We made it. I think we made it through all the dumbs. Good job, everyone. Oops, let's get that off of there. That's Graham. All right, let's go through what these dumbs are. For September, it was Pam Bondi, hate speech, and free speech. Number 2 was the 274 FBI thing, but I sort of retract that in principle. That's for September. For October, we had 5 options. Number 1 is the shutdown and the crying because of Trump's hilarious trolling, and really just not understanding how to deal with someone trolling. You don't buy into the troll. You just don't. And he got him. They took the bait, and it was hilarious. Number 2 was the J. Jones situation, coupled with Obama's comments at this rally for Abigail Spanberger and the lieutenant governor and the AG candidate, who was J. Jones, talking about being able to disagree with calling each other nasty names without demonizing each other, something he never does, never demonizes his political opponents, never happened before. Number 3 was Obama being concerned with the rising wave of authoritarianism. Just a ton of gaslighting in this 28-second video from Obama. Very infuriating to me. Number 4, also the No Kings protests in many countries that have kings. The protests themselves also, which I didn't mention, all of those people who were out there protesting are completely fine with authoritarian government. They just want the things that they think their authoritarian government should be doing. They are fine with a Democratic president signing 10 times the amount of executive orders that Trump has signed, which is a lot of executive orders. Totally fine with that. They would be fine terminating the filibuster and pushing through all of their legislative priorities. They just don't like it when someone who they didn't vote for is in power. That is actually the thing that they don't like. They don't like seeing things that they disagree with happening in the country, even if those are the people who won the election. Democracy, as they like to be in favor of. And number 5 are the snap people. Many videos in this compilation video. I'm not sure how many played. I did get up and walk off during this time. I get very upset when I see these things, and that's why I always feel the need to mention that this is a select group of stupid people. By the way, be careful when you watch these videos. I don't think any of the videos that we played counted in this warning, but there were some AI videos going around of this type of thing, and they are fairly convincing if you're not looking out for that, and got a lot of play. Hundreds of thousands to millions of views, made it on many big shows, things like that, and they were fake videos. So just be careful. It's getting very difficult to trust anything that you see on the internet. It's actually better to default to not trusting things and until you verify. Don't trust but verify. Like, don't trust, and then try to verify if it's real later on. So that's number 5. Those are the options. Everyone go in there, get your votes in. That'd be pretty cool. Go get those votes in. Fed Haters Club. If you want to be voting with the Fed Haters Club right now, go to joingml.com. That gets you in the Fed Haters Club. That's our private Discord group that we stream live to every single day of the week when we want to. This is episode 1661. That's a lot of episodes. We don't get an episode out every single day of the week, but almost every single day of the week, we have an episode out. And that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to gather this content and present it almost every single day of the week since we started this show. And one of the ways you can support is by going to joingml.com and paying as little as $7 a month. If you don't have any money to support, that's okay. You can support in other ways. You can help this show out. And in fact, everyone in the Fed Haters Club needs to do this as well. You can help out by going to our X account at Good AM Liberty, because Good Morning Liberty was too long and GML was too short, even though at AOC is a thing, but for some reason that GML was too short. Very frustrating. At Good AM Liberty, you can interact with us on our posts. You can hit like, or you can comment. You can repost if you really want to send it out to the people that are following you. Like 2% of the people that are following you might see it. That's a really good thing. That shows the algorithms that people want to see our content. On YouTube, commenting on the videos is a really good thing. So you could look into doing that. That'd be awesome. We would greatly appreciate it. And all the other social media platforms, we hardly post on those, but if you're still on those social media platforms and you see us post something, interact with that as well. That's a really good way you can help. Or by leaving a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. Dumb Bleep of the Year voting channel for the live group. For September, the winner is going to be Pam Bondi Hate Speech. That's going to be the winner. And I'll give it a few more seconds here. And then I'm going to show the live group this video, this Obamacare, this compilation video of Obama and other people talking about Obamacare that I'm working on. You've seen some like it before, I'm sure, but I'm working on one. I'm going to show it to you guys before I decide if I'm going to add some music to it or something like that. It's very frustrating. It's looking like Dumb Bleep for October, Dumb Bleep number 3, Obama/No Kings is going to be the winner. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Surely do appreciate it. I'll try and do a show tomorrow as well. It's a little bit more difficult when Charlie isn't here. That means I have to be way more prepped up for things. We used to do White Pill Wednesday on Wednesdays. Getting harder and harder to find white pills. They do exist, though, so I need to look for that. And tomorrow, I'm sure we'll be talking about the results of this election. Likely, New York is going to have like an official socialist mayor. although he'll say democratic socialist. That doesn't make it any less bad, as if someone on the right, if they were just going to call themselves a democratic fascist, if they'd be like, oh, okay, so it's different then. No. Somehow it works with socialism. But they're probably going to have Pam Bondi as their mayor. I'll give you my thoughts on that tomorrow, and we'll see how these other races that we talked about shape out. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Had a great time. Hope you had a great time too. If you do every single thing that I told you to do in the last few minutes, I'll be back here again tomorrow. Until then, have a good day and a good morning. Liberty.